A show created by the fans, for the fans. We are your home for Ohio State football coverage all year long. The Scarlet and Gray Podcast, a Network 216 production. Live weekdays on the Network 216 YouTube channel. Send us all your questions and comments on Twitter at @VSG_podcast. Now, here are your hosts, Tyler Johnson, Jordan Dalton, and Nick Leisure.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode number 28 of the Scarlet and Gray Podcast. I am Tyler Johnson, joined by Nick Leisure, Jordan Dalton. Gentlemen, I don't know about you, but sports-wise, it was a great weekend. How are you guys doing tonight?
Not too bad. I'm pretty excited to talk about Saturday's game. I know Nick is as well, and I'm ready to get into it.
Yeah, man, it was a great weekend for Ohio sports. I mean, obviously Ohio State gets the dub, Brownies get the dub, so I mean, great weekend overall. But yeah, I mean, a lot to talk about today, so I'm really excited. I know we've been waiting a couple days, and I know we just between us talking back and forth, we're real amped to talk about the game on Saturday.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun for sure. Before we get into it, guys, as always, be sure to drop a like on tonight's video and subscribe if you're brand new to Network 216. We're almost at 2,100 subscribers. So first off, thank you guys so much for that support. But also, again, it's free to subscribe. We're trying to reach 3,000 subscribers now before the end of the year. We can't do that without your help, so we really would appreciate that support. And as always, the Scarlet and Gray Podcast and Network 216 is proud to be a partner with Homage Athletic Apparel. And right now, if you're a brand new customer on Homage, you can get a 15% off your first order. All you have to do is type in your email address. You're going to get a great discount from Homage. Ohio State has a throwback tee for this year's roster that they just came out with. You want to take a look at that. But Homage has all the gear for your Cleveland Browns, Cleveland Guardians, Cleveland Cavaliers. Even if you have a family member in another state that supports, for instance, like the Green Bay Packers. I have some in-laws that are Packers fans. You can go to homage.com and they have anything you want, any team, anywhere. It's all retro. Want to make sure you take advantage of that today. Also, there's no reason to boo the Packers. They're not a rival of anything, but wow. Anyway. All right, gentlemen. Ohio State won, absolute thriller on Saturday. And I mean thriller because it can't get any closer. It can't come down to the wire any more than it did on Saturday night. The Buckeyes won 17-14 on the road. They went to South Bend, and they knocked off the Notre Dame Fighting Irish to give them their first loss of the year. Chip Traynham scored a 1-yard touchdown with no time left. First off, guys, how are your voices today? Because after Saturday night, I didn't have much of a voice because I was, one, screaming so much, but two, I couldn't believe the final drive that we saw from not only the Buckeye offense, but more specifically Kyle McCord.
Yeah, dude. I mean, just a crazy ending. I know, like, immediately after the game ended, well, as soon as Chip scored, I get a phone call from Jordan here, and I'm like, hold on. Then TJ called me. I'm like, okay, let's merge it all together. We were just hyped together. But, dude, you couldn't ask for a better ending. I mean, overall, yes, Ohio State won, but, dude, that was a great football game altogether. I mean, It was super clean. There weren't a lot of penalties. Like, just both teams just kind of duking it out. I mean, we thought it would be low scoring, the three of us did, but I didn't think it was going to be that low scoring.
Yeah. And it was a clean game, and there were no turnovers by the quarterbacks, which I thought might have – and we were coming in this game like Kyle McCord, Sam Hartman, who's going to play better because that's probably going to be the determining factor. Kyle McCord played just as well as Sam Hartman did, in my opinion, and he kept the ball out of Notre Dame's hands. There was one throw he had on that final drive that a lot of people have been complaining about on the internet, that it should have been intercepted, but shoulda, woulda, coulda, because Sam Hartman almost threw an interception the drive before to JT on a screen pass. Mm-hmm. So I think they both played about equal, and it really just came down to 1 yard. And And I could not have asked for a better football game from our defense, from our offense, from our young quarterback. Yeah, it was awesome.
Dude, I still just that. So there's a lot we're going to talk about because Ryan Day is going to get criticized on tonight's show by me in particular. I am going to be very. I'm going to give it to Coach as far as there's some things I have to change. But what were your guys' thoughts on Kyle McCord in this game? There are people that said, well, the final drive was great, but really outside of that, he didn't really do anything in this game. I think Kyle McCord was absolutely fantastic. What he did, he won you the game. He didn't lose you this game. The game was on the line. Kyle McCord takes this team down the field, including an amazing pass on 4th down to Julian Fleming, and also just the absolute bullet he threw to Emeka Egbuka to set up the Buckeyes to win this game. What were your thoughts on his performance? Because, you know, we've all said for a while Kyle McCord's the guy. A lot of fans have doubted it, but I think Saturday night was a turning point that he now has this entire fan base firmly behind him moving forward.
Yeah, I think we needed something like that. I mean, as a whole, we needed something like that to get people behind Kyle McCord because there's a lot of people that were still calling for Devin Brown to be the starter. But I'll tell you right now, if Devin Brown's in that football game, we're losing. 100%.
Absolutely.
There's no way we win that football game if Devin Brown's playing. And down the line, he might be the guy. But I think one of the things we kind of talked about it this morning before the show, that it kind of gets lost a lot and they don't talk about it was when Marvin and Kyle were in high school together, how successful they were. But Marvin grew up with Kyle and they asked him prior to the season, like, what does Kyle McCord bring to the football team that no other quarterback brings? And he said, he's ultra competitive. He hates losing. And you could tell on his face on that final drive, he was not going to let us lose that football game. And I just keep going back to that drive and I watch it and I'm just like, this dude's got ice in his veins. Like, and he didn't show it till that final drive, but that's when it mattered. And like you said, TJ, he didn't lose us the game. He didn't turn the ball over. He played within the offense. I don't think he really made a bad throw the entire night. And we were able to move the football. And I like Nick said, there was no turnovers, very few penalties for both teams, but there were turnover on downs. So it's not on the stat sheet per se, but there were quite a few turnover on downs, which I know TJ is going to get into a little bit. But that was for both teams. I think both teams had 2 turnover on downs. So, yeah, he was amazing.
Yeah.
Couldn't ask me.
Yeah, McCord is great. I mean, so I'm going to be devil's advocate a little bit here too. That game we should have won by 3 scores. And completely, in my mind, we dominated that football game. I mean, really. I mean, McCord, the one throw that really sticks into my mind, other than the one to Emeka, well, actually, this is another throw to Emeka. He dropped one right in the basket, back corner of the end zone, and Emeka just dropped it. But, like, you couldn't have asked for better ball placement. It was only where Emeka could get it, and he just dropped it. But, yeah, I mean, he made the throws when you needed to. I think they said on 3rd and 4th down, I think he was like 13 of 17 on 3rd and 4th down on Saturday night. So, like, he made the clutch throws. And, of course, we're all going to talk about that 3rd and 19 strike to the 1-yard line to Emeka. I mean, it was just incredible. I watched that throw probably 10, 15 times because it's just like a first-year starter, his 4th technically probably his 5th start.
5th start.
Yeah, I mean, just to throw a ball on a rope like that, it was just, it was incredible. I mean, he played winning football, and that's all that matters.
And the thing, too, about that throw, I mean, obviously a great catch by Egbuka. Man, that was there were 4 guys in the area on that pass and just an absolute dime. And, the big thing, like when you talk about NFL quarterbacks, too, this is the big thing. Can you win? Can you put the team on your back and lead game-winning drives? That's at the end of the day, the stats do matter. But let's say a game like this. This team isn't scoring, the defense isn't scoring any points for you. Can you go down when it matters most and win the game? Exactly what he did. He didn't score the game-winning touchdown, but he did everything he had to do in order to win this football game. Even though his head coach
here we go.
did not put him in the positions to be the most successful. And that's where I'm probably going to get some heat for this because we are going to post this clip on Twitter because I want to know what the fan base thinks.
I don't want you to be a bad fan or a bad analyst.
Yeah, don't be yeah.
You might need to chill just a little bit here.
Just be logical here. Be logical.
I am going to be logical. Ryan Day, for years, I
need some credentials here.
I do need some credentials. Hey, I've been trying to work on media credentials. It just hasn't happened. But one day. Anyway, this is where I'm at with Ryan Day. And then I'm going to let you guys jump in because this is where I'm at. I have no doubt that he can win us games for sure. I think he needs to develop being a CEO instead of a play caller. There were multiple times this game on Saturday, he is calling plays that just absolutely make no sense given the circumstances. The one sticks out for me, and my wife can attest to this because I thought the game was over. I said it multiple times, and I walked out of the room because I was that pissed off. It is 4th and 1. All you have to do is Kyle McCord has to lean forward, and you get the first down. A quarterback sneak. And Ryan Day runs a jet sweep with Emeka Egbuka and loses multiple yards. And there are other plays in this game where I don't know what the thought process is, where he is just deciding, I can't take the basic play. I got to try and make something special that's going to be a headline instead of just taking the most basic play. Ryan Day, his winning percentage at Ohio State is fantastic. I'm not arguing against it. He's 17-6 against ranked opponents in his career. Okay, that's great. At the same time, man, you made Brian Hartline your offensive coordinator. That is what you did. You promoted him to that role. Make him the offensive coordinator. There's no reason why Ryan Day needs to be calling plays anymore. Play to Kyle McCord's strengths. He did on the last drive of the game because you finally had to actually air it out consistently. You have Harrison Jr., you have Emeka Egbuka. Let Kyle McCord sling it. And we're going to talk about the running backs too because they were great in this game. But guys, this play calling, it's driven me nuts for a while. And on Saturday night, it nearly cost you a big-time game on the road. And you know what? The interview that he gave was just absolutely fantastic. And like I said, it was awesome seeing that version of Ryan Day because we need to see it more often. But I'm telling you, the play calling either has to improve or give it to Brian Hartline because taking more weeks like this, it's very stressful. And, his best days as a head coach would be if he's a CEO and not an offensive coordinator.
So I'm going to just speak on the 4th and literally probably 6 inches that we ran that little sweep to Egbuka on. So I don't know if you guys listened to his post game for like a little press conference. It was only like 10 minutes, but because everyone was asking him like, what was the thought process? Like, what was the play call? Why did you go that way? So I guess they just liked the look and they figured, well, maybe we can catch him sleeping, try to knife in. All we need is a yard. So they thought maybe we can get to the edge and maybe pick up a couple more than a yard. But yeah, I mean, you're right. At times it's very frustrating because it's like you think just make the simple play, make the easy play. Because even us as fans, we know it was 3rd and goal. And we're threatening. I'm thinking, well, we're about to do something stupid here. We're about to try to get too cute. And what do? We end up trying to run a speed rollout from McCord to hit Marvin in the back corner. This is at the very end. That was to the tight ends. Yes, that was on 4th down when he literally had the two-person route. It's the 2 tight ends, and that was it. But then on 3rd and goal from the 1, games on the line, we tried to run a speed rollout to Marvin too, and it just wasn't there. And it's just like we're on the 1-yard line, like just punch it. But I mean, I get it. At the time, 3rd and short, you want to try to conserve clock in case it is an incomplete. Then you can just punch it in because if you get stuffed on 3rd and 1 at the 1 yard line with 10 seconds left, you're not getting another playoff and game's over. So it's like I see both sides, but in the middle of during the games, it's like it's very frustrating to watch. But then when you look back on it, you can kind of understand his thought process a little bit. But it is definitely frustrating.
I don't think there's a right or wrong call in those situations, though. It's like if he would have got it, we're like, man, he's a genius. Like he caught him sleeping, right? But then if he gets stuffed, yes, it's a terrible call. So he's kind of in a win-lose situation calling plays because if it's not going well, it's all on him.
Right.
But if it goes well, then we're like, man, Ryan Day's got it together. He's making the right play calls. So I think there's a lot of give or take there. And that kind of brings me to what I wanted to talk about is Ryan Day's only in his, 5th year as a head coach? This is his 5th season?
Yeah.
He's still a new head coach. He didn't coach anywhere before. He came up through Urban Meyer. And there's the whole thing. He's born on third base, but he still has to learn how to be a head coach. And Jim Harbaugh has been a head coach for 20 years? And it took him 6 years to beat Ohio State. And nobody was giving, I'm sure they were giving him shit, but nobody was giving him oh man, Jim Harbaugh, what are you doing? You don't know what you're doing. Obviously he does know what he's doing. He's one of the best head coaches of all time. But I think there are growing pains as much as people don't want to talk about it because he is the head coach of Ohio State. And I think he's done a pretty damn good job where he's been at and especially this year. I think we are exactly where we should be with a brand new quarterback. And a lot of people didn't think we were winning that football game this year or this weekend. So I think he did fine. I'm not going to chastise his play calling. I will say though, one of the major points that he brought up in that post game was toughness. And one of the biggest things to impose your toughness is at the line of scrimmage in power football, and running a jet sweep on 4th and 1 is not tough. That's not a tough move.
Yeah.
So if you want to impose your will on a team, running a jet sweep's not the way to do it. That's the only criticism I have is he's saying oh, we're a tough football team. If you're a tough football team, you're running that down the middle, 4th and 1. And the last play of the game, he didn't really have a choice. He had to do that. Yeah. They also didn't have a defensive end on that side, but
I was just about to get to that. Yeah.
Yeah. So he didn't really have a choice, but I know me, you, and everybody in the universe was screaming, run the ball, 4th and 1. We have to run this ball. And we scored and we won. So I think he's learning. I'm not freaking out over Ryan Day's play calling.
So here's the other part, not only the play calling. Okay. Listen, I understand that sometimes you have to go goal line. Okay. There is nothing that you can tell me or convince me that Marvin Harrison Jr. should not be on the field at all times. For one, even to be a decoy, okay? Because you have to account for his presence on the field.
Yeah.
And Emeka Buka. Those two, I would never take off the field. And listen, you see it in the NFL too. There are times where teams will take their top receiver or whatever off the field. I've never agreed with it at any level because the reality is if they're on the field, the defense has to account for that player, regardless if they're getting the ball or not. Ryan Day, there's no reason to take off Marvin Harris. There isn't.
I see what you're saying. And it's almost like you're predicting. It's easier for the defense to predict the plays because you're in a set where you can bring in a linebacker or another defensive lineman. And now it's even harder to run it down the middle because you have an extra 200 pounds on the field that you wouldn't have if you had a corner, right? So I can see where you're coming from there.
When it's when they bring Chip and Mayan in together and put them in the backfield, it's oh, I wonder what they're going to do on this play. I wonder where this
be a run or these two tight ends that Cade's really athletic, but these other two guys they're not going to beat our athletic linebackers. So, yeah, I agree with you there, TJ.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Because, like, again, that's really the other gripe I had with them. And like I said, you won the game. Okay, you did. And so I'm taking it. I got out what I wanted to say. I'll take a deep breath. But it's more so just, again, that guy's one of the best players in college football. If you have him on the field, they have to defend him because he's on the field.
Even on one ankle, he's the best receiver in football on one ankle.
I can't believe what Lou Holtz said.
Yeah. Hey.
Also –
Hey, I don't know where he gets off. All right, I don't know where he gets off saying this stuff about that football team.
He could be senile. That could be it.
Oh, dude, you know what? You know what's even funnier about that? And then we can move on. It's just like Ryan Day's going off, and Lou Holtz is not even. He's asleep, and he's gonna see this clip at 4:30 in the morning when he wakes up to go get his paper and drink his coffee in the morning. It's like, but I loved it. I loved every minute of it because it was great to see that passion.
I think it was definitely Lou Holtz was just the last person to say it. And that's the reason he was
right.
Like, I mean, this has been a theme for Ohio State for since Ryan Day took over, right? The last 5 years is that they're not tough. They can't win the big game. Mm-hmm. So like Lou Holtz saying it isn't anything new.
It was just fresh in his memory.
It was just Lou Holtz was the last person to say it on TV.
Exactly, dude. Like, but again, I want more Ryan. I want a fired up Ryan Day, dude. Like, I want to see that more. Like, I wish someone to criticize Ohio State every week.
Yeah, I love it.
I do too. There is more to talk about in this game, of course, besides Kyle McCord, even though that's the most fun to talk about. Just that performance was legendary as a Buckeye quarterback. But one thing's for certain, guys. I think it's fair to say, we were kind of talking about it, kind of been talking about the last couple weeks. Travion Henderson, that man's all the way back. Travion is now the guy we saw his freshman year.
Man, he hit that beam, and I was like,
bro, I had like Zeke Elliott flashbacks against Bama when because you just see him hit the hole, and he's just gone down that sideline. I mean, once that last defender dove at him and he high stepped it, I was like, oh my God, this man is not getting caught. And it was insane. I mean, just his burst, it's incredible. And like you said, TJ, he is all the way back, and I think he's better. He just looks so. I mean, he's healthy. He looks so comfortable. His speed, it's great. I love having a home run hitter at running back.
Yeah, it's huge. And as the season has gone on, we've kind of seen that running back room take shape. Chip's definitely RB2, which is, we didn't really see that at all.
Did not see that coming, dude.
Not on my bingo card this year.
But he's been playing really well. That's like, I have no complaints with him being number 2. And then kind of like we talked about earlier in the season, looks like Mon Williams is just kind of a short down power back.
I mean, it seems like he's more like a blocking back, if anything, anymore, which is just it's weird.
It's crazy what's happened to him. Like, the dude should have okay, listen, he's a great player, but I think he's an NFL type running back. You're better off for the sake of your own career, man, like going somewhere, because you'd start anywhere else. Dude, I feel like.
What's crazy, I bet you if you would have left last year, he would have been a late round draft pick.
He would have been drafted.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Just crazy. And another thing about Chip, the man was supposed to come here to play linebacker. he came from Arizona State. He played running back there, and he came to Ohio State to be a linebacker. And then we got so banged up last year. We were like, well, he played running back before. Let's throw him back there and see what happens. And now he's worked his way all the way to RB2, and he's looked great. I mean, he's just such a big dude too to try to bring down, and he's quicker than he looks. He's almost a complete package, honestly. He's an NFL type guy too, I think.
He's the guy that ends up probably starting for you when Travion leaves after this year.
Does he have another year left?
Chip, I'm pretty sure he does.
He might be like a redshirt junior or something.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. So Chip Train, I was completely wrong. Ignore what I said. Just ignore me. He's a senior.
He's a senior. Yeah, that makes sense.
It's sad because then, man, that's okay. Well, that'll be a fun offseason conversation on how this shapes up moving forward because we might lose 3 guys.
We will lose 3 guys.
Yeah, there's no might. Travion
gone.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think no matter what, at this point. I mean, Travion's now getting to the point. I love talking draft in the offseason. But one thing I'll say, Travion was under the radar going into this year for a lot of people just because is that foot still an injury? Like, is that still an issue for him? Is he going to get back to the same guy? If Travion is this guy is either running backs don't normally go in the first. He has the potential now to be the top running back in this class because Braylon Allen, the running back from Wisconsin, for whatever reason, Luke Fickell just doesn't use him. Well, he's going to have to now because the guy who was starting for him's hurt. But Travion's now playing himself into a really nice payday somewhere. So maybe even in Cleveland. Interesting. Nice, interesting part there. But as far as though the rest of the running backs, though, are you guys a little surprised that Mayan Williams, the guy went from arguably we thought was taking over this backfield when Travion was hurt, looked really good last year. Obviously, he got hurt too. I thought this was Mayan Williams him and Travion Henderson were going to be the 2 guys this year. Are you guys surprised that Mayan Williams is seemingly just an afterthought now for the Buckeyes on offense?
I mean, yeah.
You sure?
It doesn't hurt my feelings that he is.
Correct.
No, dude, I'm just asking. I'm not trying to get to that part.
I mean, we kind of talked about it. Like nobody expected Chip to even be in the conversation, and he's clearly number 2 right now. So
I mean, if I'm being honest, I figured. Let's say, I mean, I thought Dallin Hayden was going to be more part of the offense than Mayan Williams was this year.
Dude.
I mean, if I'm being completely honest, I thought he was going to be RB2, honestly. But I guess, you still need that power, guys. So that's why Chip's RB2. But I thought at least we'd see Dallin some.
Or Evan Pryor.
Right. Yeah. I know all the hype. The hype around Evan Pryor was insane. I mean, then obviously he gets hurt. But, yeah, I mean, he's healthy. I mean, they're all healthy. So it's like you have a stable. I mean, we could be like Notre Dame and use 5 of them like they do. But, I mean, why do that when we have a good 1-2 punch right now?
Yeah. No, and that's a really good point. The final thing kind of to talk about here, I feel like, is just the clutch factor that Cade Stover seems to bring to this offense. I think he's more all-around tight end now that he's back for another year at Ohio State. But he seems to be the guy that when the Buckeyes need a play, they're going to number 8. Mm-hmm. And I think that having him on this roster, again, he's not Brock Bowers at Georgia because that man's just a different being at tight. Brock Bowers is something else. But Cade brings the leadership. But not only that, guys, he has developed into a really good pass catcher. I mean, we saw, of course, the catch didn't count. He had some plays in this game. It's like, dude, this guy, why didn't we have him at tight end his entire time at Ohio State? It took us this long to figure out where this guy needs to play. And it's just remarkable to me. He has been absolutely fantastic. And I would argue that he has Kyle McCord's safety blanket.
100%.
Yeah, and I was really worried that his production was going to fall off because CJ is gone. And CJ and him had really great chemistry. They were really close off the field as well. So I thought there might be a little bit of dip in production, but he really is that guy in the middle of the field when all those receivers are covered that Kyle knows, like, hey, I can throw it towards Cade. He's going to make a play with it. And he's just been, really, really consistent. And that is really hard to find at the tight end position in college football. And the other thing I wanted to talk about with him was that he does bring that leadership factor, and he's been a captain the last 2 seasons. And it's just been a joy to watch him because when he came in and he wasn't a tight end and he was a defensive end, and then he was a linebacker, and then he was a D end again, and then they moved him to tight end, and then they moved him back to defense, and he was just all over the place. But they finally were like, "Hey, we're going to make him full-time tight end," and that was before last season. I was like, man, they're just going to waste his talent. I thought he was going to be more of an impact player on defense.
Mm-hmm.
And we've known Cade for a long time. We've watched him coming up through grade school and everything. And I just thought he would make way more of an impact on defense. But yeah, he proved me wrong, man. He's a great tight end for this team.
Well, and dude, you have to look at it. Playing tight end is probably one of the hardest spots to play on the football field. Because
exactly,
and they line him up all over the place. He'll line up
and stand out. Play that position and stand out.
Yeah, and it's like one play he's out there running great routes and catching the football. The next play he's blocking in pass support or he's run blocking. Like he's got to know what to do on either side. Like he's got to know what to do everywhere. And he's just I know I texted you guys during the game. I'm like, dude, he is a stud. Like it's just, I mean, they don't call him Country Gronk for no reason, dude. Because I mean, literally, I mean, he's just everything you'd want in a tight end and more. And like you guys said, the leadership factor itself. I mean, being a 2-time captain at Ohio State is not like something just to like scoff at. Like that's a huge deal. There's not many 2-time captains at Ohio State. So the fact that he is, and I mean, it's even cool that, I mean, he's from our hometown. Like it's just really cool to watch him really develop and be the player he is today.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's so fun to be able to say like, hey, we went to the high school where this guy's from. Like that's just really cool, especially the guys that like you said, Nick, 2-time captain of Ohio State. It's just that's not common, even in college football, really, to be a 2-time captain. So we've talked a lot about the offense, and rightfully so, because that performance by Kyle McCord in that offense to win them the game was fantastic. But you can't do a game recap against Notre Dame and not talk about this defense. And this defense gave up 14 points to Notre Dame. A Notre Dame offense led by Sam Hartman that was one of the best in the country. Now, keep in mind, Notre Dame hadn't really played anybody at this point, but still, they were a top offense. They held Sam Hartman to 175 yards passing. He had 1 touchdown. He only had 7 yards per attempt, a QBR of 79.4. They held the Notre Dame running game. They had 76 yards rushing, but that's on 39 carries. So they averaged 4.5 yards a carry. Only got 1 touchdown from that. I think what's going under the radar a lot here, everyone wants to talk about offense because, again, it is the flashy thing. The quarterback is the flashy position to talk about. Jim Knowles has been absolutely a revelation this season. He finally has a full year of his system at Ohio State because last year was his first year and that was spotty. But now we are finally seeing what this man brings to this defense.
Yeah, I mean, dude, and I was listening to the fan, and they were talking about how they categorize explosive plays as 30 yards or more. And coming into this game, I mean, Notre Dame was averaging a couple of those a game, and they didn't have anything over 30 yards against this Buckeye defense. Now, there's a couple that were like 25, 26 yards completion, but I mean, yeah, they looked great. They were flying around. Secondary, I mean, they played out of their minds. I know we're going to talk about Lathan later on, but him and Josh Proctor, the secondary and run support was just awesome on Saturday night. They were coming up. I mean, Audric Estime, we talked about it coming into this game. We were like, man, that dude is going to be tough to bring down. And yeah, he still had, I think, like 70-something yards. But yeah, overall, dude, they really honed in that run game, and they weren't giving up anything.
And I thought a lot of that yardage, I don't know the stats on it, but I felt like they started to get a lot more success as the game went on.
Yeah.
As that defense was getting tired. And we still didn't really allow a whole lot of big plays. And that was a really big thing for our pregame show, was just like, man, like, how are we going to stop the run game? How are we going to stop Sam Hartman? Like, he's going to pick us apart if we don't get to him. We really didn't get to him. We pressured him, but we didn't sack him. but our coverage was so good and our run support was so good that they didn't really have anywhere to go with the football. It was just a really complete game from the defense, and we could not have asked for a better game coming into this. Like, we held them to 14 points, and we were like, man, they might hang, 30 if we're not on the game, if we're not playing well. So, yeah, I think Jim Knowles just came up with a really good game plan. Players executed it really well, and that was probably the best defensive performance we've seen in 5 years since Rocky Mason.
It was awesome. It was just, it was relieving to say the least. Because I'm not going to lie to you, early on when Hartman, he just looked so dang comfortable, man. Like, just so calm and just and like they kept saying over the broadcast, like, this dude's an NFL quarterback in college still. Like, he owns every record at Wake Forest. He owns, like, the top records in the ACC conference itself. I mean, the dude, he's seen everything that you can.
He's going to finish top 10 in yards
all time.
All time.
Yeah,
dude, the dude looks like he's 30 years old.
He got like the arm hair.
He almost is, man.
Like,
well, and like I said in the pregame and in our preview, Ryan Day, they asked him, like, well, what kind of quarterback do you think you can compare him to? And he's like Stetson Bennett, just because he's seen everything. And it's like, what do you do against the guy that's seen everything? And I think the Buckeyes they did what they needed to do. And like you said, Jordan, they didn't really hit him a lot, but the defense was flying around and the secondary made a lot of plays. They got their hands on a lot of footballs, and it was just relieving to see that.
I think the biggest thing, and I talked about it, and luckily it didn't come back to bite us because they were still able to make Sam Hartman uncomfortable. At some point this year, this defense is going to have to sack somebody. Like,
it might be
right now. Yeah, I'm hoping, because right now it is my biggest – it is really the only concern I have with this defense right now is just they can pressure the quarterback, but for whatever reason – and again, I don't know why. I don't know if teams got their sliders all the way up for the protecting the quarterback or what, but we cannot get a quarterback on the ground with the football in his hands. It is actually mind-blowing.
Hey, JT did when it counted, though.
He did.
Did when it counted.
Yep. Dude, but I'm just saying, like, it's honestly crazy to think about. Like, normally, that's not like, you think of Ohio State, that's never an issue. But this year, it's our biggest issue. Like, it's just, we don't have anybody on our team that has more than a sack this year. It's crazy. It's crazy. We have 4 total sacks.
Yeah.
I want to give a shout out. So, we did not hear a lot of Denzel Burke. We did not hear his name called.
Well, you know why?
And as a corner, it's a really good thing.
Yeah.
They weren't throwing his way.
I don't think they threw his way once, dude.
Maybe
no,
one.
They treat him like he was Sauce Gardner.
Like,
so he played well. I'm not gonna say much on Denzel Burke, but they were targeting Igmanosin a lot.
A ton.
And
he was good, man.
And he played really well. He had I think he had a pass interference penalty. But other than that, like, they were throwing his way a lot. And he held his own over there on the other side. And we didn't really know if, like, Jordan Hancock was going to be the guy or who was going to be the guy that had to step up. And Igmanosin definitely he earned a helmet sticker for sure.
Well,
him and Hancock, bro. Like, they're playing them both. I mean, a lot.
Well, they were trying to take advantage of Proctor, and he was lights out in the pass game. I mean, because they thought they liked him one-on-one with whoever he was guarding, and he stepped up big time too. This whole season, he's just been super reliable, and he's had a really good start to the year.
Igmanosa too. It's hard to believe that dude's a sophomore. What a great transfer pickup that was.
He's so physical too.
I can't believe he transferred from Ole Miss. I don't know if he wasn't starting there or what, but if he wasn't starting at Ole Miss, it makes you wonder why. Because, I mean, he's been really good here.
Nick, do you want to talk about Ransom?
Yeah, yeah.
Dude, that kid played out of his freaking mind on Saturday. He had 13 tackles from the safety position on Saturday. And that's not because he was saving touchdowns. That man was flying up and run support. I mean, and obviously the one that probably sticks out in all of our minds, that 4th and 1 where Eichenberg's lined up over the top, so Hartman had nowhere to go but to go to the outside, and freaking Ransom flew up. Him and Sonny Styles both just stuffed Hartman at the biggest point that they needed to. But no, I mean, Ransom's not a big dude by any means, but there was a couple times we texted, we were like, dang, he was laying the wood on Saturday night.
He was flying around.
It was awesome.
I want to give a shout out to somebody. Number 18. They were talking about Marvin Harrison, and there's a number 18 that's not Marvin Harrison that they showed on the TV. And they like showed him, the camera cut to him. I'm like, that is not
Marvin Harrison Jr. Nah, dude, but yeah, I mean, and I've always liked Ransom. I thought he's always been super consistent. But yeah, I mean, his run support on Saturday was
game changer.
It was top tier. I mean, it takes a lot for you to fly up in a hole, go one-on-one with Audric Estime, who's probably got 30 pounds on him, if not more, and he's just going right at him because he just doesn't care. He's like, I'm going to make a play. So it was really nice to see him be fearless out there on the football field.
Yeah, absolutely. And with Ransom too, like a lot of people, when you see a safety make that many tackles, the first thought is that clearly the defense is getting behind you. The offense is getting behind you. You're having to clean everything up. But this man was at the line of scrimmage consistently just making plays. And Jim Knowles is finally, I feel like, playing him to his strengths, using him in the best spot that's going to help him succeed. And you're seeing it this year. He has been really good for the Buckeyes. Really good for the Buckeyes. As far as the defense, guys, is there anyone else that really stood out to you? I know this game in particular, the linebacking core really had a tough day. Tommy Eichenberg and Steel Chambers, not one of their better games. Is there anyone else that – well, actually, there is somebody for me. I think Tyleik Williams flies under the radar way too much.
Yeah, he had a great ball game.
Michael Hall Jr. also played really well.
Yeah.
The interior D-line altogether, I mean, they were stopping that Notre Dame run game pretty early and often.
Yeah. I mean, look at the score, man. It's like – and those were both second half touchdowns, weren't they?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So there was definitely early in the game, the D-line established some dominance for sure.
He had 3 solo tackles to the defensive tackle position, including 1 tackle for a loss. He is what the unfortunate thing is the year he's having, there's no reason for him to stick around. He's a junior, but he has had a great year. Everyone talks about Michael because listen, Michael Hall Jr. is really good, and he is the one that draft scouts really knew the most about going into this year. Tyleik Williams is playing himself into the conversation to be I think a day 2 draft pick right now. He has looked really good so far this year. And I think the performance of Tyleik Williams has been a great as far as emergence, but then you bring in Michael Hall Jr. to it. It's just exactly what the doctor ordered. In a game like this too, guys, because we'll wrap it up and we'll kind of go around the rest of college football, give some helmet stickers, things along those lines. But to have this defensive line play the way they did against what will be one of the better offensive lines they will face this year is very encouraging, especially when you have coming up Maryland, who will be ranked when they come to Columbus. You have Penn State in a couple weeks. At home, you know what they have. You know the talent they have. And then, of course, the big – Wisconsin, and then the big one at the end of the year. So the fact the defensive line played this well against a team that had 2 All-Americans on their offensive line, I think that's very encouraging moving forward. Very encouraging. All right, gentlemen. As we're wrapping up Ohio State Notre Dame, in honor of Lou Holtz, I think we're going to start doing this every week. Let's give out a helmet sticker on offense and a helmet sticker on defense. So we'll go, JD, you go first. On offense, who are you giving a helmet sticker to?
It's not somebody that made a huge stat sheet impression, but I'm going to give it to Julian Fleming. He had one catch in the game, and it was one of the biggest catches on 4th and 7. It's so hard for a player to be engaged when they're not getting the football at the wide receiver position. And for him to make that play when he did it's the whole reason we even won the football game. And then to go with that, he is such a good run blocker, and he does it so selfishly that there's no way we're breaking, Travion's run without him and Harrison blocking their butts off. And so I think he deserves a helmet sticker for offense.
Okay. All right, Nick. Who on offense gets your helmet sticker?
Let's see. I'm gonna go with an obvious one. I'm just gonna go with Cade, just because of his physicality. A couple plays he made early in the game kind of set the tone offensively. The one that really sticks out in my mind, that nasty stiff arm he threw, sent that dude underground. Like the dude had no chance. And that play right there, that was early in the game. It might have been our second drive. I mean, he literally just threw that thing out there. But he's just a model of consistency. So, I mean, I really love the way he played and how he plays every week. So I'm going to give it to Cade.
All right, love it. Well, I'm kind of glad none of us had the same one because that sets me up for mine. And it's a no-brainer. And, again, it's nothing that he did really statistically. You got to give it to – I have to give it to Kyle McCord because, again, ice water in his veins. The man, when a throw needs to be made, is able to make it. It doesn't – again, in the stat sheet, nothing spectacular whatsoever. Should have selected all unders on FanDuel this past weekend. But he was fantastic. He led the Buckeyes game-winning drive. And he's gotten a lot of crap from fans this season. And he earned everybody's respect, including the national media on Saturday night. For me, it's Kyle McCord. So, as always, ride with 6. All right. All right, JD.
Yeah, okay,
the defensive side of the ball. Who are you going to give it to?
I'm going to give it to JT. I think he made, if not the biggest play of the game, the most important for clock management, breaking up that screen pass.
Yes.
He got a sack, but breaking up that screen pass, making that read, he dropped the interception, but it stopped the clock. We were able to conserve a timeout, which we ended up needing on the next drive when Kyle McCord had the intentional grounding penalty. So if he doesn't make that play, we lose the football game. And like our coach Strix always said, there's 5 plays that go into every football game that decide it. And he made one of those big plays. So my helmet sticker for defense goes to JT.
Nick, I have a feeling where you're going. Who gets your defensive helmet sticker?
I'm not going to go Ransom. I'm going to go Sonny Styles. I'm going to go Sonny Styles because of the 4th down stuff. Yes, Ransom was the one that made – well, I don't know. No, Sonny Styles made initial contact on that last play.
Yep, he did.
And he was lined up on the opposite side, and he just had the instinct in him, and he came flying around the other side. Him and Ransom double-teamed Hartman to get the stop on 4th down. But, yeah, I'm going to go Sonny Styles because, again, the dude – I feel like he kind of goes under the radar because he hasn't made, like an interception or he hasn't, forced a fumble yet or something like that. But the dude is just always where he needs to be. He's always in the right spot. So I'm going to give it to Sonny Styles this week.
Okay. Yeah, I like it. Sonny Styles, dude's going to be such a good player for us.
He should only be a true freshman this year. It's so crazy.
He looks like a grown man out there.
It's just absolutely nuts. I'm going to give it to a guy that we talked about and I brought up already. I got to give it to Tyleik Williams. The man anchors this defensive line group, and that performance against Notre Dame, 4 tackles, 3 solo, 1 tackle for loss, 1 pass deflection even. My bad, 1 pass deflection. I mean, that running back room for Notre Dame, of course you have Estemi, but they gave the ball to a lot of running backs. Jeremiah Love, Darian Price, Jabran Payne. They gave it to a lot of different running backs, and he was the one consistent guy on that defensive tackle group. I mean, Michael Hall Jr. had his plays, but there were a couple times he was still out of position. Tyreek Williams anchored that line all night long, and I think if he wasn't as consistent, the Buckeyes could have given up a big play on the ground, and it just didn't happen. He was fantastic all night long, so for me, it's got to be Tyreek Williams. All right, boys. So the last thing we're going to do, because we'll actually just kind of combine these just because very similar with going around the country and giving top 10. So, JD, your top 10 for the week, and then just kind of any results from around college football that really stuck out to you, because there were a lot of good games this weekend.
Yeah, I love college football when there's a lot of ranked games, man. So I think Alabama had a really good test against Ole Miss, and that game stood out. I think Ole Miss definitely let some opportunities slip away, though. They had that game in the bag. The UCLA game was really good against Utah.
Real quick about that game. When's the last time a Pac-12 game was that low scoring?
Facts.
Doesn't happen often, but
I took the under in that game. I did take the under in that game. Let me just tell you. So
there you go. I thought Utah played really well. They kind of fell asleep there at the end of the game and gave UCLA a shot at winning it. But I think without Cam Rising, I don't know when he's supposed to come back. I don't know if he's ever going to play again.
Well, they said actually before this past game that he was potentially going to come back. So I bet you it'll be soon.
Yeah, I think their ranking, and that's going to go into what I'm going to talk about here, but I think their ranking's not as high as it should be, or it's higher than it should be. I think they're ranking them based upon them thinking Cam Rising's coming back. So I don't think they're a top 10 team without Cam Rising, but so my top 10, I'm going to start it off. I think Georgia's still number one. They just haven't done anything to lose that position. Michigan, number two. They just keep winning. They gave up a touchdown in the first quarter. They're down 7-0. We got to drop them,
Yeah.
But they've been playing well. I don't think Texas is number three. I think Texas is number four. I'm going to have the Buckeyes at number three. I think we are just a better team than Texas. I think Texas is definitely number four, but I just think the way we played this weekend, I don't see Texas beating us. So Texas 4, FSU 5, Penn State 6. I really like Washington. I'm going to keep them at 7. I think Michael Penix is the Heisman favorite right now.
100%.
I think he's number 1. Caleb Williams is a close 2, but I think he keeps playing the pace he's been playing at, putting up the yards he's been putting up. I think that man carrying the Heisman Trophy home. And I have USC at 8, Oregon at 9. I don't have Utah at 10. I have Notre Dame at 10. I don't think what they put on the field is worthy of anything other than a top 10 spot. Even though they lost, I think they still deserve to be in the top 10. They lost on the last second to Ohio State. So I think I have Notre Dame at 10.
All right, Nick.
Well, my top 4 are the same. Georgia, Michigan, OSU, Texas. I just think, those top 4, they're pretty fluid right now. I mean, honestly, I think there's almost probably 7 to 8 teams that are all kind of in contention for the national championship at the end. That's just how open this race is right now, I think. So I got Georgia 1, Michigan 2, OSU 3, Texas at 4. I got Washington at 5. I really think I really like what Michael Penix is doing out there. I mean, they're just lighting it up. I got Penn State at 6. I think, Drew Aller's legit. They just got to get their running game on track, I think. I have FSU at 7. I think they're pretenders. I mean, the win against LSU is decent, but LSU they're not what they were even thought to be. And you're telling me you have to go to overtime to beat Clemson. So I think FSU's at 7. Now
And
Clemson
they barely beat Boston College, too.
right. So I think Florida State's pretenders, but still they're in the top 10. I got them at 7. USC at 8. There's no reason that a depleted Arizona State team should make that game even close. No reason at all. Oregon at 9. Utah at 10. Oregon made a statement. I mean, I think now Colorado. Let's be honest. The hype train, everything around them, but without Travis Hunter, they're nowhere near as good as they could be. Now, when he's on the field and healthy, yes, they can make a conversation for being a top 20 team. But without him, they're just not good enough, and it showed when Oregon just put the beat down on them.
Yeah. No, one game I really want to point out too, just because I think it flew under the radar a little bit. It was at the same time as the Ohio State game. Washington State beating Oregon State. Now Washington State is still undefeated. The Pac-12 is loaded. I mean, Cam Ward is a very underrated quarterback as well. Just want to give the Cougars some credit, especially RIP Mike Leach, one of his former teams. Anyway, my rankings for the week. So it's Georgia. Georgia's number 1. I feel like, again, they haven't done anything either way to really persuade me. Michigan's still number 2. I still have Texas ahead of Ohio State just because that win at Alabama, it just still sticks out to me. It's just that much more impressive than Ohio State going to Notre Dame, at least right now. But Texas to me is still 3. I would love to see us get a chance to play Texas and Quinn Ewers. Oh man, that would be fun. At number 5, I'm gonna go with Florida State at 5. You're gonna drop after the Clemson game, but again, it's at Clemson. We know that's one of the toughest places to play in college football. Clemson is down, but again, they still have talent on the roster, and they found a way to win, just like Ohio State. They found a way to win, and at the end of the day, that is what matters. They're still undefeated. Penn State at 6. I think Penn State. I've told you guys this. I think Penn State's legit this year. If there's a year for them to win the Big Ten, this is it. That team is loaded with talent. Washington at 7. Michael Penix is incredible. That group of receivers is the second best group in college football. Some are trying to say it's the best. It's second. Ohio State is the best, especially in terms of talent. At 8, USC. Just that offense keeps them there.
Yeah,
that offense keeps, as long as they got Caleb Williams, I mean, they're going to be there at the end. Yeah. Oregon at 9. I thought about putting Oregon ahead of USC, but I just couldn't. I can't do it yet. But Oregon did make a statement because, Bo Nix, he's played for 10,000 years in college football, but able to shut down that Colorado offense, because we know Shedeur Sanders, regardless of if people think Colorado is still not that good of a team, Shedeur is a really good quarterback, and they shut him down.
It wasn't just the shutting down Shedeur, though.
Correct. But I mean, when he's throwing for nearly 400 yards a game, it's pretty good. I mean, in order to contain him, that's pretty good. No touchdowns given up. Notre Dame's
Oregon's legit.
Yeah. Bo Nix is really good.
He is. He's gotten a lot better. I mean, again, staying in college football that long can really help. I mean, it has in his career. And then 10, if Cam Rising comes back, I would put him at 10. I just don't think Utah's a top 10 team. I really don't. I think Notre Dame is 10. Notre Dame is going to be in the conversation at the end if they can win out, because that team, Notre Dame, normally I say they're the most overrated team in college football. I think this Notre Dame team is legit. Yeah. They played us really tough. I think with Hartman, they have stability at quarterback. They got a guy that's been there, and I think they have one of the better quarterbacks in college football. And as long as that offensive line can stay healthy, they will be there at the end. So
what is their – so their strength of schedule is really low, but do they have anybody coming up on their schedule that it would warrant them moving up? Like, are they going to play a top 10 team Do they play Michigan this year or anything?
They played at Duke on Saturday.
Who are we talking about? I'm sorry I missed it.
Notre Dame. Notre Dame plays at Duke on Saturday night.
They got USC coming to town too.
Yeah, and keep in mind, Duke is ranked right now at 17.
Yeah, baby. Riley Leonard, man. Dude's fun to watch.
Clemson. They
still go to Clemson, and whether we can say whatever we want about Clemson, that still will be a tough game.
Yeah, you're right. I hate Dabo Sweeney, so I cannot give him any respect yet. That dude.
Let's get Clemson with 4 losses this year.
Dude, Clemson loses 4 games, dude. We'll do a celebration episode. Oh man. Anyways, I want to thank everyone for tuning in to episode 28 of the Scarlet and Gray podcast. If you guys have watched us tonight, or you're going to end up watching the episode tomorrow on YouTube, be sure to drop a like on the video. Again, that really helps the YouTube algorithm grow for Network 216. But also considering subscribing if you're brand new to the channel. Not only will you have access to the Scarlet and Gray podcast, you'll have access to the Barking Brown Show, the Yard Dogs podcast, Faithful Dogs podcast, the Dog Chug, and Across the Cavs for all your latest Cleveland Cavaliers news. So a lot of great content that we have on the channel, not to mention daily content every single day with whatever sports team, Ohio sports team you're looking for. We really do appreciate that support. We're trying to reach 3,000 subscribers here before the end of the year. And we're getting close to about 900 away from that goal. So thank you guys so much. We really appreciate all your support. There will be no Ohio State game day preview, of course, because the Buckeyes, as a reminder, are on a bye week. So we will be – I know. It is sad. It is really sad. But it gives you an extra week to prepare for Maryland, which that's going to be a really good game. But anyway, we will be back next week with your regular episode of the Scarlet and Gray podcast. Thank you guys all for tuning in. We can't wait to talk to you all again soon. And as always, go Buckeyes.
Go Buckeyes.